Thank you all again for coming, and I will hand it over to Tom from Email Octopus.
Cool. Thank you. Perfect. So I'm from Email Octopus, as James said, and I'm going to run you through today some of the stories and lessons we've learned while scaling our business. So firstly, you're probably wondering, what is Email Octopus? So we are an email marketing platform. There's hundreds in the industry, as I'm sure you're aware of. The difference with us is we've really focused on the low cost aspect of it, and we really focus on the sending of campaigns. There's three of us currently kind of behind it. So they're both sat on the front row and myself. So Jonathan, who's in the middle of that picture, he does everything technical at Email Octopus, which as a tech business is probably 90% of the work. There's Gareth on the left-hand side. He did all the initial launch marketing, and he's now gone off to run his own marketing agency, but he's always on hand to give us advice when we need. And then there's myself on the right-hand side that you can see there. And we're based in Hackney, so a couple of miles away. And the thing that we're bootstrapped. So that, for those that don't know, I'm sure you all know, is we're self-funded and we're profitable. We've been profitable since day one. And a lot of my talk will be talking about how we've scaled whilst living within our means. So also through this, I'm going to have a few giveaways, etc. Because we're too cheap to give everyone stuff. We'll give stuff to those who get answers right. So this is a big number up on the board. Does anyone want to guess what that is? And I'll tell you, it's not revenue, sadly, but it's anyone want to guess what that is? Go on.
How many bugs do you fix?
Almost.
How many bugs you have?
Go on you. Email sent. Yeah, exactly. So you get a little fluffy octopus. Congratulations. So back in April, we hit this big milestone, not 1.4 billion, but we hit 1 billion emails back in April, and we've only really just got around to talking about it. But since then, we're sending around 200 million emails a month, and although I appreciate that's very much a vanity metric, and pretty much every startup book says don't bother about vanity metrics, internally we obviously focus on revenue. I think it's a number that reflects kind of where we are and how we've grown. So behind that number, there's a hell of a lot of work that's gone into it. Firstly, in acquiring the customers that get us to that point, and secondly, the technical work that goes into supporting such a vast number of emails being sent. So we have to track every click, every open, every unsubscribe. And that's why we kind of like that number, even though, as I said, it's a vanity metric. So I'm going to share some things along the way about how we got to that point. And I'll start with how we started out right back at the start. So obviously, to start a business, you have to come up with the idea. And I've got another giveaway here. What's the most difficult thing about starting a business? Yeah, you got it. Exactly. Choosing the name is one of the most difficult things we struggled with starting a business. And there you go. Oh, sorry, almost hit your head. We went through probably 100 different variations of the name, from things like monkey mail, which obvious reasons we probably couldn't do. MailChimp would probably sue us, through to mass SES, which is a really technical, nerdy thing because we use Amazon SES to send them. Now, we launched this back in late 2014, October 2014, I believe. And this was pretty much as complex as the site was. It was a very, very simple landing page, totally free at this time, no pricing, and people clicked to get started, and they could upload a list and send an email. And that was about it. So what we did at that time is we began to promote it. And what the graph on the right-hand side shows is, if you add all those numbers together, within the first 6 months, or maybe slightly more than 6 months, we ended up signing up around about 2,000 people, whilst we were a totally free product. The thing we did particularly well there is making use of free channels. As I said, we were bootstrapped. We didn't spend a penny out of our means. We were profitable, again, almost since day one. And we used free channels such as Reddit, Hacker News, Facebook, Twitter. The thing we did particularly well on those channels was with, for example, Facebook. There's all these wonderful Facebook groups. London Startups is one example. I think there's 40,000 people in there or something crazy. And we really tailored our messaging to those people within that group. So in the case of London Startups, we'd go on the whole spiel about we're a London-based startup, changing email marketing, and we'd go with that. For Reddit, we'd be like, we're a team of developers who have a bit of spare time, we're a free plan, we're taking on the giants of Silicon Valley, come and use us. So we really tailored our message to those different channels. And as I said, that ended up with around about 2,000 signups in the initial stage. So we got to around about July 2015, and we were not making any money at that point. So what we did is we sent this email out. I'm sure you can all read that for yourselves, but it was a very, very harsh email. And this is probably one of the things we could have done slightly better for a couple of reasons, which I'll explain. And we sent this email out to all 2,000 users of ours and said, basically, thanks for using us, but you've got to pay now. Slightly nicer, but that was the gist of the message. And we lost 99% of them straight away. So we dropped down from 2,000 people using us down to roughly 26. Well, it's not rough, that's what it was. Yeah, and that sounds rather scary, and it was. But on the flip side, it gave us some validation that we'd created this platform and people were willing to pay. Now, in hindsight, we probably should have done that a bit sooner. We ran ourselves as a free platform for 8 months, and the advantage of moving to paid sooner would have been we'd have got a lot more valuable feedback quicker. There's a lot of freeloaders out there who will switch between different platforms trying to get the best for free. And actually all we really cared about was the feedback of our paid users. They really helped shape the business. So this is one thing we didn't do particularly well. To say we didn't do particularly well is a bit harsh, but we could have done it better, perhaps. So that was us, July 2015. We went paid, and then we began to go into the initial growth stage. So over the next few months, this is email sent over time, we began to go quite nicely. And then suddenly we kind of grew all of a sudden. And what we'd done is we'd posted it on a few different forums, different websites, and word of mouth was beginning to get around. But I've stopped that at a very strategic position, and I'm going to have another giveaway right now, and you get a really nice watch if you get this one. Why has it stopped right there? Go on.
Because then it looks like a hockey stick.
Partly that, but what happens after July 2016, I guess? Even worse than that, but seeing as you're closest, you can get the free watch. Let me give it to you. Ooh. It's not very nice. It's not a Rolex or anything. There you go. So, as I said, this is the graph post July 2016. So what had actually happened at this point here in the graph is we had become kind of a mecca for spammers. And I know I remember speaking to a few of you in the room about that, and it became kind of hell on earth. The forums which we're talking about us were no longer nice startup forums. They were the slightly nefarious black hat world and places like that. Although we're an email marketing platform, and I'm sure there are a lot of people in the room that think all email marketing is spam, this was kind of penis enlargement kind of spam, and it was very black and white as to what was what. So this is our customer growth over time, and the point that happened is around about here, where we began to flatten out. And so our rocket ship really began to slow significantly. And it wasn't as bad as perhaps the last one looks, because it was only 5% of our accounts sending spam. But they were sending 60% of our emails on our platform. So firstly, obviously, what we did is kick them off. So that is why the growth slowed down. Word got around that this wasn't quite the mecca that people thought it was. And we had a really, really kind of tough couple of months. We hovered around this. This is around about 10K MRR a month. And we really hovered around that for a while. And we debated, is this really a business for one? Is this, just going to be a place for spam guys to hang out. And we had to put a lot on hold. So the first things we put on hold is hiring. We thought if this continues, we're going to have a team of 10 developers and we're going to build the best thing ever. Equally, all our features we put on hold. So whereas we had, again, plans for all advanced email marketing features, we really could just focus on getting rid of these spammers off the platform. And I suppose the lesson of that is figures look good, but not all growth is good. And that was a really, really hectic, kind of worrying couple of months for us, and we really panicked for a while. So we really had to think our acquisition strategy at that point. It was quite concerning, and we had to rethink. We can't rely on word of mouth necessarily, because word of mouth gets around to the wrong people. So we had to do a few different things, and one of the ideas we came up with was doing something that's called it's got various names, but a nice way to put it is side project marketing. And this is something we launched on Product Hunt there. The idea behind side project marketing is you launch a secondary product in order to promote your main one. So in our case, we launched these open source email marketing templates. And there are many, many examples of other companies doing this. We're not unique, but it was something that works really, really well for us. And the reason behind it is kind of, once you've built them, it's an evergreen source of traffic, and you never really need to touch them again. I think we've touched them twice since we launched them. And as I said, over 4,000 times they were downloaded. Companies such as Uber, Deliveroo, God knows what they're using them for, but they all downloaded them and are using them for something or other. So that for us is one of the best sources of traffic. Even today I went online and looked at how many people had signed up. And we had, I think, 7 people today signed up and downloaded them. Again, a totally free source of traffic. SEO is what happened. And once they've signed up to download those email marketing platforms, we can do 2 things. So we can run them through an email drip program, try and persuade them to sign up to our core platform. Or if you're not asking for their email address, you can run them through a Facebook pixel and retarget them back to your core site. So that was something that worked really well. Cost us, a week's worth of work building some templates, and it's, as I said, it's still bringing us leads today. Another thing we spent a lot of time on is, at this point we had probably 10,000 people signed up to the platform who had done various things, some of which had churned, some of which had signed up and never come back. And we really, really tried to re-engage them, re-engage the churned and the non-paying ones. And one of the best examples we did this was the Black Friday. Now, I'm sure everyone in the room knows what Black Friday is. It's usually a consumer-based promotion. And we decided to try and do that for B2B. So rather than launching on Black Friday itself, we launched the week preceding Black Friday and kind of went with the message of Black Friday's coming up. You need an email marketing provider. We'll do it for $1. And what happened? Users would sign up for $1, and it was essentially first month was discounted, and they went on to pay full price. And in total, I think we had 90 customers sign up on a single day for this, which in real terms, once they'd gone through our process and some had left and some had come back, it added around about £1,000 a month in MRR to our business. And as I said, it generated around about a month's worth of customers in a day. So that's some of the things we're doing to grow the business in terms of acquisition. Now, over the past year, we've grown from around about 100 customers up to now roughly 600. And that has meant that the team has had to make changes, etc. And how are we scaling the team on that budget? So you can always throw developers at a problem and you can hire more and more. Sadly, we don't really have that luxury. We can't really afford the London salaries of all these developers, so we're trying to keep the team quite lean. So one of the things we are doing is we've got into the habit of really prioritizing everything really, really rigorously. So one of the prioritization frameworks we use is PI, which is potential to change the business, importance to the users, and the ease of implementation. And if we have doubts about what's best, then what we do is we ask our users. And we have on the right-hand side a churn survey, So we ask all our users who leave why they're leaving, and they get a nice picture of me. Amazingly, people think that is actually me writing this in real time, and they all write, "Hi Tom, sorry I'm leaving. We'll really miss you." But users are sometimes a bit stupid. And there are other cases where we've asked our users what they want, and we spent ages on one particular feature, well, 3 particular features we were debating what to work on. We were debating whether to launch custom fields, templates, or email scheduling. Now, the first 2 are a lot more sexy than the last. Scheduling emails is a bit boring. And we just put it to our users. We said, what do you actually want? And they came back and asked for the really, really boring thing, which was also the most easy one to implement. So asking our users in those cases firstly saved us a lot of work, it made them very happy, and it was a win-win in the end. Another thing we've spent a lot of time on is stopping these 5-minute tasks becoming hour-long ones. So I'm relatively technical, Jonathan's quite technical, and we handle probably almost all the support within the business. And what we were doing is we were finding workarounds, as many technical people do, to solve our support issues. So we'd be pulling data from MySQL and very simple things over and over again, and it would take 15 minutes to get the right query, copy and paste it, serve a bit of Reddit, wait for it to finish, and it was taking far too long, and we were wasting loads and loads of time. A 5-minute support ticket would really, really drag on. It would take maybe not an hour, but 30 minutes, and it was becoming a bit painful. Now, I suppose most SaaS businesses now have these, but we didn't have it to start with, and this is perhaps my favorite thing we've built in kind of 3 years, and this is our admin dashboard. It's not the most beautiful thing on earth, but it's really, really saved us so much time. It solves 90% of our support queries. It's actually just a wonderful thing. And the nicest thing is, as we grow, we'll be able to get non-technical people to use it. No one needs to know MySQL anymore. And as I said, it saves so much time for us. Oh, we also have a rule on this, if we receive the same request via support 5 times, we spend time adding it to the dashboard. And that's something that getting into the habit of that and having that rule really means that we don't just get into the habit of answering things over and over again. Another thing that we're really, really happy that we've done is we work in a space alongside another SaaS business, Ticket Tailor, and that's been really, really beneficial to us. They're slightly bigger than us, and they're a year or 2 ahead in the growth curve. But what that has done for us is kind of invaluable, because the problems we're having now, they experienced a year, maybe 2 years ago, and we can always ask them for assistance when we need. We've also quite good at pooling resources together, so we share the same accountant. So things like pensions, things like VAT MOS, things like currency conversions, we can send one of us into a meeting and then we'll chat about it later. And if there's something technical that needs to be built, one company needs to build it, and then we share it between us. It really works fantastically. And if you have to take one thing away from this presentation, it's really surround yourself with other SaaS businesses. And this is why the event that James and GoSquared have put on is absolutely fantastic. So that's where we are now. Whereabouts do we plan to go in the future, I guess is the question. So poor old Travis, this isn't a political statement. I have a lot of respect. I came here in an Uber tonight, so it's not political at all. But what I mean by this is our plans are not to be the next Uber. Our plans are not to take on the world. Our plans certainly are not to take on funding and lose ownership. We really value having ownership of the business. And I think in many ways, running a self-funded business is a lot easier than running a venture-backed business. Both Jonathan and I were at VC-backed businesses before. I was at Secret Escapes. Jonathan was at Coindesk. And the forecasting that you have as a self-funded business becomes so much easier. You just spend less than you bring in. And if I want to go and live on a beach tomorrow, we can discuss it, and I'll probably go and live on a beach tomorrow. So not having investors really has its benefits sometimes. Also, it allows us to do things in what we feel is the right way. So we like to treat all our staff well. We've just hired a developer, we just hired an intern. We're paying obviously the intern, London living wage, things like that. We really focus on the people more than the profit. I think that's something that that we're really keen to do. Not to sound like Jeremy Corbyn, but yeah. And what we say is we don't really want to own the universe. We're happy just making a small octopus-sized dent in it. So that's the presentation. This is our office. So thank you very much for listening to the story. I really hope it's inspired a few of you who are looking at starting your own business, or for those of you who are, like years ahead of us, I hope it's reminded you of some of the early days. As I said earlier, the best thing we've done is spending time working in a space with other SaaS businesses. So I'd love to extend an invite for you to come and work in our office if you're starting out or you want to, get away from your office. We've got spare desks. Come and spend a day with us. You can walk Alfie, or we can just chat SaaS. So thanks once again, and thanks to James for putting this on.
Thank you very much, Tom. That was great.